The human delegation arrived at the Concord Ring slowly, the massive space station stretching across the void like a silver web. Ambassador Ethan Cole stood near the entrance, watching the other species pass by with their strange shapes and movements. He had seen pictures, and he had read reports, but nothing prepared him for the reality. Tall, armored Threks marched with stiff discipline. Kaldar warriors, with scales glinting in the artificial light, whispered to one another in sharp, low tones. Even the subtle Relani moved with an elegance that made them seem almost invisible until they spoke. Ethan straightened his suit and adjusted the small communication device on his lapel. Beside him, Maya Roberts, his aide, scanned the surroundings with sharp eyes, noting who was talking to whom, the patterns of attention, and the signals that were hidden in gestures. Captain Jason Hill of the fleet and cultural analyst Lily Brown followed closely. The four of them represented humanity, a young species still seen as unpredictable. Some admired humans for their courage and adaptability. Others quietly feared them, knowing humans had grown too fast, too far, too unpredictably for old powers to control. The summit hall opened before them like a giant crystal dome. Thousands of delegates filled the seats, and hundreds of cameras floated in invisible arcs to capture the moment. The council chair, a Relani named Saris, glided to the center podium. Her voice carried without effort as she welcomed everyone. Her words translated instantly into dozens of languages. Ethan could feel the weight of history pressing down. This was not just a meeting. This was a test, a chance for humanity to show that it belonged among the stars, or to bow quietly under the guidance of others. The first sessions were polite enough, almost boring. Speeches of friendship and cooperation floated across the hall. But Ethan knew better. He listened to each line, each pause, each subtle emphasis, trying to see where the trap might be hidden. He noticed the clauses that limited human colonies, restricted technology research, and gave other species rights to guide humanity's development. He noticed the way some Threks delegates smiled too widely, and how Kaldar eyes flicked toward the smaller species in the room, measuring their obedience. Maya leaned close. "They're coordinating," she whispered. "The Threks and Kaldar are sending signals to each other. They plan to push this treaty through together." Lily's eyes widened. "There's more," she said quietly. She had been studying side documents, those hidden in files meant for internal eyes only. If this treaty passes, humans lose control of all new colonies for 50 years. It says it right here. Protective supervision. They'll dictate what we can build, where we can settle, what technology we can use. Jason frowned, rubbing his jaw. They want to make humans the front line for every fight, every border conflict, but keep us powerless in the council. It's not negotiation. It's control. Ethan nodded slowly, letting the weight sink in. He had hoped for diplomacy. He had hoped for compromise. But he had never believed the old powers would treat humanity as equals. They wanted to guide, to limit, to contain. And the more he looked around the hall, the more he saw the truth. The first real conflict came unexpectedly. A Kaldar delegate, a towering figure named Varnock, slammed his clawed hand against his podium. "Earth is new, unstable, and reckless. Your people are temporary sparks. Do not pretend you belong here." The room froze. Cameras whirred. Ethan felt the stare of every other delegate. Some were shocked. Some were smirking. The council chair raised a clawed hand and said nothing. She wanted to move on quickly, to keep the vote coming without letting tension rise. Ethan took a deep breath. He could feel anger rising, a fire that threatened to burn through his calm. But he kept his voice steady. Temporary sparks may burn brightly, but sparks have the power to ignite the universe. Humanity has fought, bled, and sacrificed alongside many of you. We have defended borders, we have stabilized conflicts, and we have stood where others feared. We are not reckless. We are responsible. We are partners, not pawns. The chair interrupted sharply, ending the discussion. The vote was next. Ethan watched as the old powers lined up. The Threx and Kaldar gave quick, firm nods to each other. The Rilani remained inscrutable, their eyes glinting. A few minor species tried to speak in favor of fairness, but their voices were drowned in the weight of centuries of council habit. Maya leaned close. Once they vote, it's done. You won't have a chance to change it. Maya, Lon. Maya. Maya. Wow. Ethan's jaw tightened. He had expected resistance, but he had not expected how smooth the trap had been set. The council wanted to force humanity into submission without a fight. Quietly and efficiently. He glanced at Jason, who nodded, understanding the silent question. They had trained for moments like this, but even their training had not prepared them for the political gravity of walking away. The council chair announced the vote. Numbers were called. Threx, Kaldar, and their allies voted yes. Only a few minor species abstained. The clause was approved. Humans were to be placed under supervision. Ethan felt a cold, sharp clarity in that moment. The council had shown its true face. They did not want partnership. They wanted obedience. He stood slowly, carefully, and the room turned to look. Cameras captured the moment in real time. Ethan's voice was calm, even as the hall filled with tension. "Thank you for showing us how much you value humanity," he said. "We will not sign. Humanity will withdraw from all council processes, effective immediately." A murmur ran through the hall. Delegates expected protests, loud arguments, perhaps threats, but they did not expect quiet dignity. Ethan turned and walked toward the exit. Jason, Maya, and Lily followed without hesitation. The council chair's voice called after them, warning of isolation, of the dangers of refusing a treaty. Ethan paused at the door, looking back over his shoulder. "Humans have survived alone before," he said softly. "This time, we are not weak." And then they were gone. The phrase spread across the station faster than any message system could carry it. Humans had walked away from the table. Whispers filled corridors. Some species pitied them. Others were secretly impressed. The old powers were angry, their pride wounded by the unexpected decision. They had expected fear, and instead, they had received resolve. On the horizon, their flagship waiting in orbit. Ethan sat alone for a moment, looking at the stars. Maya hovered nearby, collecting data slates and reports. Jason leaned against the hull, silent but ready. Lily watched the council's broadcast, analyzing reactions. The galaxy had changed in one moment, and everyone knew it. Minutes became hours. News from distant sectors began to trickle in. Some minor species cheered quietly, inspired by the human refusal to bend. Others sent warnings, anxious about the consequences. On Earth, the public watched in disbelief and awe. Families and children stared at screens as the announcement replayed. Some called Ethan a hero. Others whispered fears of retaliation. Back on the ship, Ethan looked at the small image of Earth stored in his cabin. He thought of the countless generations of humans who had faced impossible odds. They had survived floods, fires, wars, and famines. They had built ships that reached the stars. And now, they had chosen to stand for themselves, not for approval. Lily joined him, holding a data tablet with intelligence reports. "We'll need to track all reactions carefully," she said. "Minor species will be nervous. The Threx and Kaldar will plan something." Jason nodded. "We prepare. Defense, trade, diplomacy. We act when necessary, but we don't bow," Maya added quietly, "and we document everything." Every threat, every opportunity. History will remember this moment. One way or another. Ethan's eyes swept over the four of them, his team, his family and the stars. They had chosen a hard path, one with no guarantees. But they had chosen it together, with courage and purpose. As the horizon moved away from the station, toward uncharted space and new possibilities, a subtle shift began across the galaxy. The old powers had lost the quiet control they had expected. The minor species, the traders, the explorers, all sensed it. Humanity had declared its independence, and the consequences of that choice were only beginning. In the distance, beyond the lights of the Concord Ring, a faint ripple of activity started. Small ships adjusted their courses, silent observers watched the departure, and data flows began to change. The galaxy had trembled, not with violence, but with the quiet strength of humans who walked away from the table. Ethan stood at the viewport, looking at the black of space. He did not know all the challenges that awaited, the threats that would come, or the choices he would face. But he knew one truth clearly. Humanity would not bend. Not now. Not ever. And for the first time, the stars seemed to feel different, as if they too recognized that a new force had entered the balance, one that would not be ignored. The horizon sailed quietly through the empty space beyond the Concord Ring. Inside, Ethan and his team reviewed the events of the summit. The Council's response had been swift and expected. Several minor species had whispered concerns, but the old powers moved quickly to show their displeasure. Threx patrols appeared near human shipping lanes, and the Kaldar made demands for negotiations that were little more than veiled threats. The galaxy was testing humanity's resolve. On Earth, the news of the walkout created waves of emotion. Public forums and media channels were flooded with discussions, debates, and arguments. Some citizens celebrated the decision, praising Ethan for courage and foresight. Others worried about the consequences. Trade routes could be cut, supply lines disrupted, resources blocked. Many feared that the Council's old powers would retaliate with fleets or sanctions. Ethan spoke to the World Council via secure feed. Chairwoman Olivia Carter listened carefully as he explained the hidden clauses of the treaty, the surveillance plans, and the pressure that minor species had been under for centuries. Olivia's calm voice filled the chamber. "We have expected resistance," she said, "but we need to plan. Humanity cannot survive isolation alone. We must prepare for every possibility." Jason met Admiral Lucas Ward at the main fleet command. Ships lined the orbital docks, their hulls polished and weapons checked. "The old powers are testing us," Jason said. "We need to be ready for harassment, sabotage, and worse. We cannot allow panic to guide our actions. We focus on self-reliance. Protect our trade routes, safeguard our colonies, and be ready to respond without breaking Council rules unnecessarily. We cannot give them a reason to call us aggressors." Maya was placed in charge of a new department to monitor the reactions of other species. She spent hours analyzing data feeds, picking up subtle movements, unusual communications, and coded messages. Already, small trade disruptions had begun. Shipping lanes that had been safe for years suddenly required inspection permits from Threx stations. Some ports refused human freighters, citing minor legalities. Maya recorded everything, noting patterns and anticipating the Council's next moves. Lily worked with scientists, engineers, and sociologists to understand the larger picture. She discovered historical records of species that had been guided by the Council, slowly losing independence over generations. They were never allowed full autonomy, even after long periods of peace. Humans, she realized, had avoided the same fate by walking away. She shared her findings with Ethan, who listened quietly, absorbing the implications. The first real incidents began almost immediately. A cargo freighter bound for Mars was delayed for days at a Threx-controlled checkpoint. Officially, it was a routine inspection. Unofficially, Maya's intelligence suggested it was a warning. Soon after, a human research probe in a remote system was destroyed, blamed on navigation errors. Each incident alone seemed minor, but together, they formed a clear message. The Council's old powers were testing humanity's patience and resolve. Ethan received a secure message from Lena Voss, the Solari ambassador from a minor species. She requested a private meeting in neutral space. Lena's species had always been cautious, careful not to anger the Threx or Kaldar. Now, her voice was urgent. "We have seen what the Council intends," she said when they met. "You have shown courage. We admire it, but you will face pressure. Sanctions may come. Fleets may shadow your ships. You need to prepare, not just for defense, but for survival." She offered intelligence on upcoming Council moves, minor leaks, and warnings about training exercises that would block human trade routes. She also suggested forming quiet, unofficial alliances with smaller species, a network of support outside the Council's control. This was risky, but it offered a way to build influence without direct confrontation. Back on Earth, Olivia authorized a multi-pronged approach. Factories increased production of goods that had been imported from other species. Orbital shipyards accelerated construction of defensive vessels, designed to protect trade without violating Council rules. Humanity would no longer rely on outside powers for essential needs. Jason oversaw the fleet's rapid expansion, ensuring that the ships were ready for any harassment or blockade attempts. Lily joined a research team in a secure station, working with physicist Noah Clark and engineer Emma Lewis on advanced propulsion systems and communications technology. They experimented with ways to improve travel speed, sensor coordination, and data sharing across vast distances. Maya's monitoring department fed them information, ensuring that new technology would counter potential Council interference. Meanwhile, the Council's propaganda machines began to operate. Media outlets in several major species broadcast stories painting humans as reckless, emotional, and untrustworthy. Old battle footage was edited to make humans appear chaotic and dangerous. Some minor species, unfamiliar with humanity, began to distance themselves, worried about the supposed instability. Ethan countered with careful public statements. He avoided anger, choosing calm, clear words. He spoke of fairness, dignity, and choice. He reminded audiences that humans had contributed to peace and defense in multiple conflicts, and that their refusal to sign the Council Treaty was not rebellion, but a stand for independence. Slowly, perception began to shift in favor of humans. Some minor species started questioning the Council's narrative, noticing inconsistencies in propaganda and the subtle intimidation of smaller powers. The cost of walking away, however, was real and immediate. Ships were delayed. Trade suffered. Resources became scarce. Colonies on Mars and Haven worked overtime to meet the needs of citizens. New supply chains were developed, new routes explored, and local production increased. It was hard work, exhausting, and uncertain. Citizens debated whether humanity could endure without the Council's support. Yet the human team remained steady, their focus on resilience rather than fear. Jason held strategy sessions late into the night. He emphasized caution and coordination. "We respond, not react," he told his officers. "We must protect our people and our trade. We cannot let fear dictate our actions. But we also cannot show weakness." The officers nodded. Each understood that this was more than politics. It was survival. Ethan, Maya, and Lily worked on the diplomatic front. They contacted minor species quietly, offering support, intelligence, and trade opportunities without violating Council agreements. Maya's network grew. Small but significant, as minor species shared information, warnings, and ideas. Lily ensured that the network was protected, using encrypted channels and redundant systems, making it nearly impossible to trace or disrupt. One day, a human cargo convoy was delayed by a Threx patrol near a distant system. Jason's small fleet intercepted, using real-time coordination to surround the patrol and demonstrate control without aggression. The Threx captain tried to press the issue, but found the humans organized and composed. After careful negotiation, the patrol withdrew, reporting the incident as misunderstood. The story spread quickly, highlighting a new reality. Humans were not weak. They could act decisively without provoking war, using intelligence, coordination, and innovation. The Council had expected isolation and submission, but instead, humanity responded with skill and strategy. In another development, Lily's team advanced the Mosaic Link project. It allowed ships, laboratories, and research stations to communicate instantly, share sensor data, and operate as a coordinated unit. The network improved scientific discoveries and operational efficiency, giving humans an edge in coordination and planning. It was not just military. It was a tool for survival and progress. Ethan met with Lena and other minor diplomats in secret. Together, they discussed how small species could build their own networks, free from Council control. It was delicate work, requiring trust and patience. Minor species feared retaliation, but they were inspired by humans' courage and careful planning. Slowly, alliances began to form. Small threads in a growing web of independence. On Mars, the colonies adapted to the new reality. Factories produced more goods, engineers designed innovative machinery, and agricultural systems became more efficient. Citizens felt pride in their independence and strength. A new spirit emerged, one that valued ingenuity, resilience, and cooperation over dependence on old powers. Despite these advances, threats continued. Propaganda increased. Raids by unknown ships became more frequent. Trade disruptions persisted. Yet humanity responded with discipline, avoiding rash decisions while defending what was theirs. They turned challenges into opportunities, demonstrating that their refusal to bow was not reckless, but strategic. At the end of Part 2, Ethan gathered his team in the observation deck of the horizon. They looked out at the stars, thinking about the days ahead. The galaxy was uncertain, and dangers were real. But humanity had taken a bold first step. They had chosen dignity and independence over compliance. They had faced the Council and refused to bend. Maya spoke quietly. "We are building something new. It is small, but it is strong. Others will see it soon." Changing. Jason nodded. "We are ready. They may test us, but we can respond. And we will." Lily smiled, her eyes on the glowing data streams from Mosaic Link. "Science, strategy, and courage. That is our advantage. We are not alone, even if the Council wants us to be." Ethan remained silent for a moment, thinking of Earth, Haven, and the thousands of human colonies. They had chosen a hard path, and the consequences were only beginning. Yet, he felt a quiet certainty. Humanity could survive. Humanity could grow. Humanity could thrive. The horizon moved steadily through the void, carrying humans and their allies into a future that was uncertain, but full of possibilities. The galaxy had noticed. Minor species whispered. Traders changed their routes. Some old powers frowned. Humanity was no longer a child at the Council table. They had walked away, and the universe was beginning to recognize that their independence was not a threat to others, but a statement of strength. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, Ethan knew one truth. Walking away was only the first step. The journey ahead would test every skill, every mind, and every heart. But humanity had chosen its path, and it would face the galaxy with courage and resolve. The horizon moved quietly through a sector near the edge of human-controlled space. Captain Jason Hill stood on the bridge, watching the sensors carefully. Several council fleets had appeared near shipping lanes, claiming routine exercises. But Jason knew better. These were tests. The old powers wanted to see if humans would falter, hesitate, or bow under pressure. "Captain," said Communications Officer Claire Martin, "a freighter convoy is approaching. Threx patrols are shadowing them. They are signaling for inspection." Jason studied the display. The patrols were well positioned, using intimidation to slow human trade. He took a deep breath. "Prepare, intercept," he said. "We do this carefully. No aggression. Just protection. We show them humans are not weak, but we do not provoke a fight." The small fleet of human ships moved in precise formation. Using the Mosaic link, every vessel shared real-time sensor data, coordinating movements with perfect timing. It looked almost like one ship, moving fluidly in space. When the Threx patrol approached, Jason's group appeared from multiple directions at once. The patrol captain hesitated, unable to predict the human maneuvers. "This is impressive," said a voice over open comms from the patrol. "You move as one. You are organized." Jason's voice was calm. "Our freighters are under human protection. We offer navigation data to avoid accidents. There is no need for conflict. Our way." "Why?" After several tense minutes, the Threx captain withdrew, claiming a misunderstanding. Jason exhaled slowly. Humanity had succeeded without firing a single shot. The message was clear. Humans were organized, intelligent, and disciplined. On the horizon, Ethan reviewed reports from multiple colonies. Delays, small attacks, and interference were increasing. Freighters had been diverted, communications disrupted, and minor skirmishes reported near neutral zones. Each event was small, but together they formed a pattern. The Council was attempting to pressure humans, to test their resolve. Ethan called a strategy meeting with Maya, Lily, and Jason. "We are being tested," he said, "but we have the advantage. The Council expects fear, rash action, and submission. We do not react that way. We respond. We protect our people, our trade, and our allies without aggression. Unless necessary, we show control." Maya added, "We also need to grow alliances quietly. Minor species are impressed, but afraid. They need assurances that standing with us will not endanger them. If we coordinate secretly, we can create a network that will strengthen all of us." Lily spoke next. "The Mosaic link is more than a defense tool. It is also a network for science, logistics, and coordination. If we expand it, human colonies and allied species can share information instantly. We can predict threats, move resources faster, and even share knowledge about technology that the Council wants to limit." Ethan nodded. "We proceed on all fronts: defense, alliances, science, and trade. We turn their pressure into strength." A few days later, a convoy of human and allied freighters was ambushed near a border system. Unknown raiders attacked suddenly, firing weapons and disabling communication systems. Jason's fleet responded immediately. Using the Mosaic link, ships coordinated movements and covered blind spots, moving faster than the raiders expected. The human ships did not destroy the raiders outright. Instead, they trapped them with careful maneuvers, disabling their engines and capturing their crews. Examination of the prisoners revealed a shocking detail. These were not ordinary pirates. They were trained crews, supplied with council-grade equipment. Payment and orders were traced to front companies linked to the Threx and Kaldar. Ethan reviewed the evidence. "They want conflict without taking responsibility," he said. "We show the truth. We do not escalate. We reveal the facts." A broadcast was prepared for multiple worlds. Ethan spoke calmly, showing data from the captured raiders, weapons logs, and communications. "We were attacked," he said, "by forces equipped with Council-level technology. These attacks were planned, not random. Humanity defends itself. But we will not escalate. We offer transparency. Anyone willing to investigate can see the evidence." The broadcast spread across colonies, neutral worlds, and minor species. Public opinion began to shift. Citizens and leaders started questioning the Council's narrative. Humans were no longer a reckless species. They were cautious, intelligent, and willing to defend themselves without unnecessary violence. Meanwhile, Lily's team advanced the Mosaic Link. Laboratories and observation stations across different systems connected into a single network. Research on propulsion, defense systems, and trade logistics accelerated. Information moved instantly. Problems were solved faster, and discoveries appeared at a rate unseen before. The network allowed humans to think and act as one, even across light years of distance. Ethan continued secret communications with Lena Voss and other minor species diplomats. Together, they planned a network of trust, sharing intelligence, trade opportunities, and warnings. The minor species were cautious but intrigued. Some began adjusting their own operations to support human trade routes and protect their citizens. The threads of a new alliance began forming quietly, outside the Council's influence. On Mars and Haven, human colonies worked tirelessly. Factories increased output of essential goods. Engineers designed drones and machinery to improve efficiency. Agricultural systems expanded, providing food for colonies that were once dependent on imports. Citizens felt pride and purpose. They were building independence, and it was tangible. One day, a Kaldar fleet moved into a neutral zone near a human colony, clearly testing the response. Human stations and ships, linked through Mosaic Link, tracked their movements and prepared defensive patterns. Jason's fleet faced them, weapons armed, but without initiating combat. Jason communicated directly with the Kaldar commander. "We propose a joint maneuver exercise. Civilian shipping will be protected. No shots fired. We demonstrate our coordination and capabilities. You may observe. We will follow the rules." The Kaldar commander, curious and prideful, agreed. The exercise began. Human ships moved with precision, covering blind spots and protecting freighters, while remaining within the limits of the agreement. The Kaldar watched in awe as humans coordinated maneuvers that seemed impossible. The exercise's recordings spread quickly through the galaxy. Humans were no longer seen as reckless. They were skilled, disciplined, and clever. The Council's old powers had expected humans to weaken after leaving. But instead, humans demonstrated intelligence, innovation, and restraint. The Council, alarmed by these results, began planning new measures. A formal declaration was proposed. Any species that jeopardizes the stability of the common order could face collective action. Everyone knew it was aimed at humans, and any who might align with them. Lena and the minor species diplomats approached Ethan urgently. They feared the declaration would force smaller species to comply with the Council or face retaliation. They asked if humans had a plan that could prevent open war while preserving independence. Ethan assured them that humans were prepared. "We defend," he said. "We do not attack unless necessary. We offer alternatives. We build trust and cooperation outside the Council. There is a way to show strength without starting war." Meanwhile, Lily and her team worked on a breakthrough. A form of short-range, fold space travel. It was not faster than light, but it allowed safe hops across vast distances, cutting travel time for trade, defense, and research. If humans controlled this, they could create new trade routes beyond Council supervision, offering independence and security to willing allies. Colonies prepared for the future. Training increased. Defense grids were upgraded. Ships were equipped with improved sensors and weapons coordination systems. Humanity was becoming a networked, self-sufficient species, capable of defending itself and assisting allies. At the end of Part 3, Ethan gathered his team in the observation deck of the horizon. Stars stretched endlessly before them. The galaxy was no longer a predictable place. Challenges and threats would continue. The Council would test them again. Jason spoke first. "We are ready. We know their moves, and we can counter them. We do not fear them," Maya added. "We have alliances forming quietly. Minor species are watching, learning that humans can protect themselves without provoking war. Our network is growing." "Our network." Lily smiled, showing the new data feeds. "Science and strategy together. That is our advantage. We turn pressure into progress." Ethan looked out at the stars, thinking of Earth, Haven, and the human colonies scattered across space. They had taken the first bold steps. The Council had tested them, but humans had not faltered. They had acted with courage, intelligence, and patience. The horizon continued through the void, a symbol of humanity's independence. The galaxy was beginning to recognize a simple truth. Humans were no longer children at the Council's table. They were a force that thought, acted, and defended itself. And as the stars stretched beyond reach, the human network of ships, colonies, and allies continued to grow, moving quietly but decisively toward a future where humanity would define its own destiny.